Hi, my name's John. A year ago, I'd never even heard of Fruits Basket. That was until my girlfriend introduced the anime to me.
And I'm Allie. I've been reading the manga since I was in 3rd grade.
We loved watching season 1 together so much, and we'd have all these crazy long discussions about what happened in each episode.
And for season 2, we thought it would be really fun to share our conversations with you.
So join us today as we talk about season 2, episode 1, Hello Again. So before we actually jump in with our recap and theories about this first episode, we wanted to give a little bit of a disclaimer that we've actually watched up to episode 5 of the anime so far, and we're recording these retroactively. So it's going to be more of that theorizing and recap as opposed to more of a review. So with that out of the way, where are we starting?
Alrighty, so we're starting out with Motoko looking out the window at Yuki, and she's just talking about her undying love for him.
So she had a fantastic quote here that I wrote down where she said, "Everything about Yuki is everything to me." And I was like, girl, same. Because I love Yuki so much. Like, I will take the mantle of president of the Prince Yuki fan club. 100%.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, canonically, it would be you, if possible.
Move over, Makoto, because I am in town. I love Yuki. Everyone else is great, but Yuki is my dude.
Everyone has a favorite character, and now everybody knows that Yuki is your favorite character, which is nice because I think when the original, which I hate calling it that because it wasn't based off of the manga technically, but when the first version of the Fruits Basket anime came out in, 2001, a lot of people disliked Yuki just because of the way that he was written and how the anime was set up back then. A lot of people didn't like Yuki then, and so it's nice that now in this version, the 2019 version that is canon with the manga, that you love Yuki. So it worked. 10 out of 10. Follow the manga.
Love him.
Mm-hmm.
Love him. But
All
I also
right.
thought it was interesting seeing through the eyes of an observer kind of how Yuki has slowly been changing and how Toru's kind of shaped that with her klutziness.
Yeah, because Yuki starts laughing when she's all clumsy, which, classic Toru, just falling over and messing around. But I love that he's laughing out in the wild because in season 1, when they went to go stay at the inn, and Toru had horrifically missed that ping pong ball, Yuki excused himself and went to laugh outside because he had said, "I don't want to laugh in front of Kyo. I mean, I've never even laughed in front of my parents." So now he's out here laughing in the wild.
Which, like, they had a moment there. And I was so happy about that moment because so much of last season was like, oh, Toru and Kyo and stuff like that. But that was a Toru Yuki moment.
That's interesting that you think that so much of last season was focused on Toru and Kyo, because a lot of people have argued that it was very Yuki-centric, and I agree with them.
No, disagree. Yuki does not get enough. Maybe it's because closer to the end there was more Kyo, so it's like that
I think
recency bias. Mm-hmm. Because I just remember, because, Kyo turning into a big demon cat thing and all, kind of, it stands out a lot more. But, anyways, that was a moment, and I think that moment really transcended, and I like how they represented that at the beginning of this episode. Like, remember? He's laughing now, and people are like, that's kind of odd.
It's weird. Yuki can be happy? I haven't seen that before. Yeah.
Kind of losing his charm. Okay. So, then, opening rolls, and there's a lot that I wrote down about this.
Yeah, and I'm happy about it too, because I think throughout all anime, the opening is usually where they foreshadow a lot of the big moments. Or at least they start introducing little things that will be used as metaphors later. So it's good that you noticed a lot in the opening, because many people just don't even pay attention to it. So what do you have written down?
Okay, so the first thing that I have written down is that girl who was in the hospital with, like, the long black hair.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm jumping to conclusions, but I feel like there's safe conclusions to jump to, because she was looking in a window and a horse was looking back to her.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
So I'm gonna say she's the horse.
They make it pretty obvious, because it's like, here's Hatsuharu, he's the cow. Here's, I don't know, Hattori, he's the seahorse, aka dragon. And they're like showing you every single character, and then they're like, oh, by the way, anime onlys. Like,
the
here's
Zodiac.
a horse.
Yeah, she's in the midst of the Zodiac. So she is the horse. She wears riding boots, which is what you wear when you ride a horse, which is kind of odd, but it makes sense.
I don't know if those were riding boots. I think they have heels in the back, just so you know. But you couldn't see the back, so how would you know?
They could be stylized riding boots. I don't know. Okay. They looked... Whatever. Whatever. Details. So, she's the horse. That confirms it for me. It makes sense, because if she tied her hair back, it would look like a horse's tail. Anyways, a ponytail. Oh!
There you go. You figured it out.
Then we look at, I believe, the line of everyone walking. And so we recognize all of these people. All of it's the Zodiac, except for...
Yeah, Uo-chan.
Toru's two friends.
Hana.
Uo-chan and... Yeah. And so, except for the last dude, we don't know who he is, but given context... I'm going to say he's the rooster. We don't know him yet. That's the only member of the Zodiac that we have not met yet. And so he would round it out as being the rooster. I don't think Akito's the rooster. I don't know. Well, I have a theory about Akito, but we're going to talk about that later, more towards the end of the episode. But I think that tall gentleman is the rooster, because he's the only one that we haven't met yet.
Yeah. Okay. And then for the manga readers, just very briefly, in this lineup, I think that one person is placed in a very specific area, and it kind of denotes their importance to something else. I hope you're catching on, because I'm obviously not going to say any spoilers, but... Really look at the lineup. About
spoilers.
Oh yeah, I refuse to ruin any part of this story for anyone who is an anime only viewer. This story deserves to be watched spoiler free, and like end of story there. But for my manga readers, I do believe that one person is placed very specifically in this lineup. Look through it. Feel free to DM me on Twitter if you want to talk spoilers. But yeah. Just so you know, think about that one. Sit on that. Okay. What else do you have written for the opening?
I don't know. I really have no idea what you're talking about.
Don't worry about it. You'll learn later.
But I don't know what that could mean. So, the next thing I have written down is... I wrote this down in retrospect. I don't know where it slots in, just off the top of my head. But when they show Kyo and Yuki... Their faces are back to back, like they're back to back, and then they walk away, and then it pans to Kyo, and he has a very open posture in that. And then when it pans to Yuki, Yuki's arm is across, and he's holding his other arm, and it's very closed off. And I thought that was really interesting, almost showing their different character growths.
Yeah, because Kyo had opened up at this point. He shared his true form. And he's calling Toru by her first name. There's no additions to it. It's not like Toru-chan, he's not adding anything there. It's just Toru, which is so important. Whereas Yuki is more closed off. He keeps talking about how he needs to keep things bottled up. And he's not calling Toru by her first name. So it's kind of showing you the difference between their relationships with Toru and therefore their character growth in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's... really, we've seen that throughout the entire show so far is him really opening up a lot Kyo, at least, and it being a much slower process for Yuki moving forward.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. And then the next thing that I have written down is about the melon. There's a melon that keeps popping up.
Yeah.
And I know Momiji said something about eating. I think he said about eating melons at the end of last season. And so, but what I thought was curious was that the melon first pops up in a body of water behind Toru's mom, I believe.
Whoa,
And,
interesting.
Like in a little lake or stream. I'm terrible at naming bodies of water. It's like a stream. So I thought that I don't know what significance that quite has, but I imagine they didn't randomly put a melon in a body of water behind a very important dead character for no reason. But then it pops up when they're all at the beach under Hatsuharu's arm. And so maybe it just symbolizes something that makes you feel safe and nourished. I don't know.
Watermelon nourishment. No, I think you're on the right track there. That's a really good theory.
I mean, I feel like it's almost like good times. The melon symbolizes good times. They're at the beach. That's probably going to be a good time. Maybe for Toru, her mom is... Maybe not.
Sorry. The beach arc. I mean, as Fruits Basket has proven, everything that you think will be good always ends up being a little bit sad.
I don't... Well...
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that was that. I don't quite have a definitive idea on what that means. And then the next thing that I wrote down was about the recurring hermit crab. So that popped up behind Kyo, and then it was scuttling along the beach a little bit later. In that one, I have a more concrete idea of what that could mean.
Yes.
Because, so, the hermit crab, I feel like... So, hermit crabs, the way they work is when they outgrow their shell, which they use for kind of their home and their security, they have to leave the shell and find a newer, bigger one, right? So it's almost, since it appeared behind Kyo, and I believe it was pretty much hidden away in the shell when it was behind Kyo, but then it was kind of scuttling along. Maybe that means that he's ready to come out of that shell and get a new, bigger shell. So he's leaving his old kind of habitat, kind of like that open body posture, what we were talking about.
Yeah. That is such an interesting theory. Like, as a manga reader, and for all of the manga readers listening, obviously everything that is being used in this opening ends up being... It at least shows up once, you know? No word on if it's important or if it's not important, but they're going to the beach. You're probably going to see a hermit crab. So when the hermit crab does appear, I don't think anyone had ever put a metaphor to it. So I like that you're exploring that. I think that's really interesting. So manga readers, that kind of opened up my eyes a little bit about something. So I think that's really cool.
That's my idea on that. And then the next thing I wrote down was Akito sitting on a load of wave breakers, which I learned about those recently in Animal Crossing. So shout out to Animal Crossing. But I feel like that's just very symbolic of Akito really breaking the waves and not allowing things to progress normally, like currents and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so, because naturally with waves, there's that push and pull, but that gets broken up by the wave breakers, naturally. And so I feel like Akito is very much the wave breaker of the story. Nothing good comes from Akito. Thus far. Maybe he's a good guy, but I can't say one way or another whether or not I like him yet. Probably don't. I probably hate him thus far. He seems like the worst.
He did kind of torment your favorite character.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there are redemption arcs all the time. but I don't see that happening. And the last thing I wrote down, the very last thing, is at some point in this intro, Toru's hat flies away. And I can't... That happened in season 1. Where Toru has the hat, right? Yeah.
Like that blue cap?
Yeah. That blew off of someone else, I think.
Yeah, she had mentioned that. A boy had helped her.
Yeah. So I feel like that symbolizes... that's a callback to that blue hat. Her beach hat is a callback to that blue cap. And maybe her hat's going to help someone here in a little bit.
Maybe.
Because she is very helpful. She's a helpful girl.
She is.
But that's kind of all I have in terms of the opening.
Okay, cool. I really am appreciative, and I'm sure manga readers are too, that you added a lot of different theories to the opening. So thank you for being so aware of things that were happening. Alrighty.
I feel like with anime openings, you have to be hyper vigilant because I feel like they give the most clues.
Oh my gosh, they do. Yeah,
I've watched enough Mother's Basement on YouTube to know that they have a lot.
Oh, yeah.
A lot tied into them.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay, so now, episode start. We got Toru, and she's doing laundry activities. Everybody's chatting it up. Do you have anything that you noticed specifically other than Shigure just prodding and being so obnoxious?
Yes.
I love him.
So I love how they're all like fighting. Yuki and Kyo are doing their Yuki-Kyo thing. Mm-hmm. And she almost kills Yuki. I don't know. This is no real plot significance, I guess. But I think it's so funny that she almost like kills him with an iron. And she's like, stop fighting. And she would honestly turn him into Prince Zuko right there if she brought that like an inch closer to his face.
Oh my gosh, amen. It's just so funny how she had told them to stop fighting because someone could get hurt or something along those lines.
And she's ready to kill.
Yeah, she's ready to kill. And Kyo's like, look at what you're doing. Jeez, girl. Like, you're the one who's going to end up hurting someone. And I just think it's so funny how Toru means so well, but she's such a klutz that she misses the mark a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. But something else that I noticed that I think is a little bit more significant is Shigure starts pointing out the potential drama that could ensue over the summer between Toru, Kyo, and Yuki. You know, that little love triangle.
Yeah.
And I love how he essentially is like, oh, youth is wasted on the young, like that kind of thing, even though he's not that old. But
no.
But I thought that was really representative of his character almost, and I'll explain what I mean by that. I always have felt like Shigure is very much the proxy for the viewer throughout this entire series, because we've seen his very lighthearted, fun side within the story and within the context of all of the... Well, he's a main character, but within our main Zodiac crew and Toru. But he also is very much invested in the darker side of things, and he's kind of got a little bit of shadiness and mystery to him himself. But I feel like we see all context of the story through Shigure's eyes specifically, because he's the most connected to everyone in the Sohma family. And so it's almost like we're seeing the story in a way through Shigure's eyes.
Yeah.
To an extent.
There's something that I just realized, but I kind of want you to come to the conclusion. By the way, everyone, this is how I treat every single time I want John to theorize. I'm like, ooh, I realized something, or, oh, I want you to come to a conclusion, but I need you to come to the conclusion. I'm not just going to tell you, you know? So, proving your theory a little bit, what's Shigure's job?
He's a writer, so he might be the Frodo Baggins to Fruits Basket.
He is a romance writer.
He is the he is the Frodo Baggins to Lord of the Rings. Wait, you know what I'm trying to say. Frodo Baggins wrote Lord of the Rings. He wrote Fruits Basket in the future. He recounted everything.
I don't know if he recounted everything in my little realization, but
Look,
he was very excited at the prospect of summer romance, and it is very interesting that we're viewing a lot of things through his perspective, or at least he's involved in a lot of things.
this was all just a dream.
It was all just a dream that Shigure had. But yeah, that's a really interesting little tidbit. So, another thing that I think is very relevant to this episode specifically is before the whole fight between Kyo and Yuki happens, Kyo had said that he thinks that Yuki is robotic and lame. And the idea of Yuki being lame is brought up like 3 more times within this episode. So it's interesting that, I mean, that had been a theme throughout season 1 as well, the idea of Yuki thinking down on himself or thinking that he's boring or not very interesting, and Kyo obviously agreeing with him.
Yeah.
But Toru constantly reminding him, and other people reminding him, or even idolizing over him, and saying that he's a cool person. So. But
then he, like, looks at the sun, like, as he's walking down the stairs, and he goes something along the lines of, he hears the voice again, and he goes, lame, yeah, well, I already knew that, or something along those lines. And that kind of goes back to him still being very closed off, and thinking he doesn't have a lot of self-confidence, that boy.
No. Poor Yuki.
But then we are greeted with something very polar opposite.
Yeah, Kyo's calling Yuki lame, and then meanwhile, people are fighting over him.
That Makoto versus Mokoto fight, which let's say that 10 times fast, but that slayed me, because I'm like, get me in there, coach, like, I'll fight too. There was too much Yuki love in that scene, but I lived for it.
I love how the background characters are, they probably have names and I just don't know them, but the other background characters are like, oh, there they go again, they could go all day.
So funny.
So funny. But yeah, they're fighting over Yuki, and Motoko's trying to figure out if there are any girls that would be talking to Prince Yuki, because how dare they? Toru Honda's already a big enough deal. They don't need more girls on the student council, you know? They might eat him up.
Eat him up.
Like you. They'd be worried about you.
I don't think they'd be worried about me.
Okay, so our Prince Yuki fan club, they're trying to figure out how they can learn about which girls are going to be in the student council group. And they're chatting it up when Uo's gang, or I guess they're not really a gang anymore, but they interrupt them, and we get to see these side characters again, which I think is fantastic writing. Yeah,
I think that it's cool getting to see characters that we really do just think of as side characters, but it kind of brings back in Uotani's relevance to the story, which I think that she's going to stay relevant to the story much more profoundly than she was in season 1. She got a spotlight, but for the first half of season 1, she wasn't really all that present. So I think it's cool to see that her storyline is persistent, even though everything else is happening with Yuki and Kyo and all the Zodiac stuff. So I thought that was really cool to see those 3 kind of pop back in.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool that they were talking about changes that they've made in their lives and things like that. And the one girl had mentioned that she was thinking about dyeing her hair, and I just think it's so cool and such a good way to show the writing of the show and of the manga as well, that these characters have lives outside of what we see on screen. So even if we're only going to see these side characters maybe like 3 times, 2 times a season, we still know that they are going through life, and when they come back, they'll mention the things that they're thinking about. So I love that. I think it's such good writing.
Yeah. But
All
then
right.
we get premium Yuki content
Yes.
as he... So it kind of feels like a horror movie as he's going to the... it's not the student council room, it's the counselor's office.
Suspicious.
Which I don't know why they would have to move it to the counselor's office instead of the student council room.
Mm-hmm.
I really have no idea why that could possibly be the case. But regardless, he walks in. It's kind of a horror movie situation. And Machi, the treasurer, is being super suspect with all of the paper all over everywhere. Which leads me to be like, what is she looking for? Because she's actively looking for something.
Mm-hmm.
So she trying to figure out... My mind instantly goes to double agent. Maybe I've been playing too much Persona. Maybe I watch too much anime or TV or whatever. But double agent. Is she working for Akito? Because Akito's high-key the worst. And has his fingers, his grubby little hands everywhere. So I wouldn't put it past Machi to be enlisted or something and trying to dig up stuff about Yuki or Toru, maybe. Because Toru's getting pretty close to Kyo and Yuki. And all of the Sohmas, really. So if Akito's smelling something off, he might send in someone.
Interesting theory.
So I'm kind of thinking that might be Machi's deal. Also, Machi's just strange.
A little bit. I think it's kind of interesting that, like, so often we see Soma members that back away from other people's touch because, you know, they don't want to get hugged or have, like, torso-to-torso contact in any way because that would mean that they turn into an animal and that because usually spells animal, disaster.
Yeah. Not
but
good.
This time, it's opposite, where Yuki reaches out to comfort Machi, and she backs away almost violently, so she hits a cabinet or something, and it looked like that would hurt my arm. I wouldn't like that. So it's really cool that we get to see an opposite side. We've never seen that before, I don't think, where just a regular person backs away from a Zodiac member in that way, without even knowing anything about them.
My initial thought here was like, oh, she's in the Zodiac too. But then I remembered my rooster theory of who that is. The dude at the end of the line in the opening. And I was like, well, we're out Zodiacs. So that's not it. And it doesn't even matter because they can touch Zodiac to Zodiac. And
they would have seen each other at the banquet.
And, like, that's a whole... There are loads of holes in that. So maybe she just doesn't like being touched. I don't like being touched that much. So... You know, to each their own. Yeah. But then, the most wonderful thing happened to this entire series. Probably the best thing to ever happen to the series, if I'm being honest. Good old Black Ranger Kakeru is introduced.
It's so funny that you say that he's the best thing to happen to the series because I think manga readers agree right now. They're like, Kakeru, Manabe, yes, I've been waiting for so long. I've been waiting since 2001 to see good old Kakeru.
He is so funny. So he's got a lot to him too, because I feel like it could very much be portrayed that he's just this simple-minded, napping character. But we see a lot of nuance in everything he does. Like, it all feels calculated to a degree. All of his quirkiness feels kind of calculated, but still, I love him. So, and when he did say that, he was like, I'm black, by the way. I knew he was talking about Power Rangers. Like, I knew it. 100%. Well, Super Sentai in Japan, I guess. But you know what I mean. I was like, okay, Power Rangers. Black, good choice. No one wants to be blue. No offense, Blue Ranger. But
so funny that you say that.
Why?
Well, to lead
That's
on the theme.
okay.
So, jumping ahead a hot second, Matoko or whatever, he walks in and... Makoto. I hate their names. They make me angry. I love how I'm the manga reader and I'm like, Motoko and Makoto.
Well, in the manga, you can't hear them being said.
Yeah, so I'm just like, oh, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so he comes in and he very briefly mentions that there are going to be 2 more members that he's currently scouting out and that he's going to do such a good job figuring them out for Yuki, and he gives us a great reaction photo.
Yes.
And,
the slow head turning towards the...
Oh, yeah. And I mean, if there's, 5 members? Yeah, total? Then, that's kind of perfect.
There's got to be another
Power
guy.
Rangers.
There's got to be another guy, and there's got to be another girl. So, my theory, based on the few characters that we know, because we really don't know that many outside of the Zodiac and the core few, is so Red Ranger or Pink, as Kakeru so nicely pointed out, could be Yuki, but I think probably Red. Mm-hmm. And Kakeru's Black Ranger, obviously.
Oh, duh.
Yellow Ranger is gonna be Machi. She's so not a Pink Ranger. And then the Pink Ranger will be... Oh, do you know who's such a Pink Ranger who we've met?
Who?
This just came to me. We haven't talked about her yet, but what if it's Rika? She's such a Pink Ranger.
She is a 3rd year.
Oh. Whatever.
So, I don't know if
Maybe
that would be possible.
I'm going with Rika. And Blue Ranger is either Hatsuharu or Momiji.
Interesting theory.
Momiji could be the Pink Ranger. I think he'd
really
be down
could.
for that. But
Momiji suddenly joins.
hey, not out of the realm of question. But in terms of Kakeru, just in general, I love that he's just like Yuki's brother. I think that's hilarious. But I also feel like he could also be low-key sketchy. But, I think he's ultimately going to be a beloved character. I think he'll realize that he's being sketchy. But I think he's doing something in the background. I don't know what. Maybe he's working for Akito, too. Maybe everyone's working for Akito. I don't know. But he's kind of sketchy, too. He has, moments. But it might just be good. Either he's perfectly fine and just good-natured and a delightful character, or he's sketch central. There's no way he's just a middle neutral character.
Yeah, I see your point of view there.
Okay. You're like, I'm not saying anything.
I am not saying anything, except that I really enjoy Kakeru Manabe. But I also do enjoy villainous characters, so that doesn't give you any insight either.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's great. I'm so happy that a lot of anime onlys have been enjoying him. Because I was a little worried that he would be off-putting at first, just because, as Yuki had put it, he is very, very similar to Aya in a lot of ways. So,
yeah.
There could be an issue there, but I'm happy that people do seem to like him.
Yeah.
All right, so we got... Oh, and then Kakeru was kind of giving him a hard time, too, and calling him the Pink Ranger, and he said, look at that delicate face, Ooh.
Yeah.
And just kind of messing with him. But then Yuki fights back, which I imagine he wasn't expecting. And Kakeru had said, wow, you're mad. Awesome, you're more interesting than I thought. Again, playing back to the theme of Yuki's lame or maybe not so lame.
Yeah. But then this episode really kind of turned into just a heist for Yuki's love with them, going with Mokoto going up to Rika, or Mokoto and her crew going up to Rika and then being like, hey, can you help us? And her being all, I can pick locks because I'm edgy.
Rika's the coolest ever. I love
And
Rika.
she picks, well, she didn't really need to pick the lock, but she has moves. Mokoto is as smooth as a gravel driveway, whereas Rika is porcelain. She has moves.
Oh yeah, she knows how to talk up Yuki.
She
Homegirl
slid
knows what
into
to
them
do.
DMs. And so maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think in terms of plot, other than Mokoto just kind of being socially awkward and asking him about breakfast, nothing crazy happens in this scene. Nothing super intensely relevant.
No, but I do want to point out for everyone who doesn't know what natto is, just to know what natto is very quickly. And it really gives us insight into Yuki. And I think it's so funny.
Oh,
So, natto. Yuki...
I'm throwing a picture up on screen right now because it's foul looking.
It is foul. So, Nato, very quickly, he had mentioned that he ate that for breakfast. And they both look very disgusted, both Rika and Motoko. And that is because natto is a traditional Japanese food that is made from fermented soybeans. And I've watched countless vlogs of people traveling to Japan, and every single foreigner has said, for the love of God, do not eat natto. You will not like it. It is a horrible texture, and it's gross. You'll hate it. A lot of people who live in Japan don't even like it because it's just gross. It sounds gross.
Foul looking.
And it's like sticky and no. So their reaction was really funny. Like, Prince Yuki eats natto?
And then on top of this, which, like, I thought that was hilarious when I found out what natto was, because I had to Google it, because I had no idea why they reacted so viscerally. Mm-hmm. Now I know. And that for breakfast, too. Ooh, what a way to start the day. But I think this also showed Yuki's kind of socially inept, because he calls Motoko cute, or the way she speaks so formally cute. But regardless, he called something about her cute, which is just like, you have to realize that she's in love with you right now. She's so uncomfortable, and you call her cute? Come on, dude. Like, give her a break. I know you didn't intentionally do it, but give the poor girl a break. But then she flips out and runs away. And I was like, oh, in my notes I wrote, oh, Motoko's is worse socially. Sorry.
Yeah, she really did not know how to react to that.
But I felt really, I think it's cool how this show is able to give smaller side characters moments. Because honestly, up to this point, she wasn't very likable at all, in my opinion. But when they're by the sink or whatever, and she's talking about how upset with herself she is, I felt really bad. And I think it's so cool that this show can make you feel invested in such smaller characters, even if just a second ago they were grating on your nerves. Because they're actual, like, human beings, like you were saying with the three hanging out with Urotani earlier.
Oh, yeah. She had said that the one who thinks these horrible thoughts about, like, Toru and all of these other girls and how much she hates them is the one that I hate the most. So she's saying that she hates herself for thinking those things. Yeah, sure, it's annoying that all of the other girls are flirting with her man, but she hates herself more because she thinks such horrible things about them.
Yeah.
And all the while, she's paying so much attention to Yuki and commenting on the vast amount of change that he's gone through. And she recalls that smiles come so easily to him now. Will he continue to change? Will he continue to smile without her, with someone else's help, aka Toru?
Yeah. And then he tells her, which it's shocking to hear him open up to anyone, let alone a stranger. Essentially, they don't know each other. They're not close. She
No,
stays away.
yeah, Prince Yuki fan club rules dictate that she can't just go off and talk to him.
Yeah. So, and then he reveals to her that he can barely keep it together all the time.
Yeah,
And that was such a, it was such a, this was such a good Yuki episode, getting into his psyche, because it shows that on the one hand, he's still so in his own head, so much, but he's also breaking out of his shell too.
and I like that in this story we don't have a hard line of character development. They are now developed. It's you get the very slow process of them coming to terms with themselves and getting to know themselves, especially in these teenage years where it's really hard to get to figure out who you are, what you want to do, what's your relationship with your family, are you interested in dating anyone? How do you navigate those feelings of a first relationship? How do you know how to flirt? And we're exploring all of those things. Yes.
They're all melons.
Oh my god.
They're all melons. They're all tough on the outside, but when you open it up, they're sweet and soft on the inside and beautiful, but you need to get through that tough exterior.
You gotta punch it open.
Ooh. Maybe that's not what the melon means, but that's what I'm saying it means. Is there...
That's funny.
So there isn't really... Besides that slideshow of very cryptic images at the end, there's not too much left, right?
Not too much, but one brief thing, I want to go back to the Yuki, just because I will call out every single time that this is brought up in the episode, because they really talk about it. Motoko had called him cool, and Yuki said, I'm not cool, I can barely keep it together. And yes, you had mentioned that he was opening up, but we're once again going back to the theme of the episode, which is Yuki cool? Is Yuki lame? What's going on with Yuki?
Yeah.
But then he's recounting the day with Toru, and they're doing the dishes, which is really cute.
And we get that slideshow. I'll be honest, I barely listened to what they said in this.
I'll tell you what they said. Tell me about the slideshow, though.
Okay. So a lot of things happened in a very short period of time here that gave us a lot of information. So I put my journal down while I was taking notes because I was thinking, oh, this is the end of the episode. There's not going to be anything. And then all of these things started happening, and I grabbed it and started scribbling down as fast as I could. So we saw Haru checking on the girl who is the horse. So there's a relationship that I don't think that we had seen prior to this, that I'm aware of at least. But there's a relationship there, probably past just being both Zodiac members. They're both barnyard animals, so maybe that's that. But I thought that was interesting, and we'll probably see more of that. And then Momiji playing the violin, which I thought that was really interesting, because you could just dismiss it as a beautifully animated scene of a boy playing a violin. But I feel like the violin is a very specific instrument for him to play, because when you think of the violin, you think of maturity, or at least I do. And so I think, but there's also a sadness behind the violin. So if you think back to SpongeBob, where Mr. Krabs is playing the world's smallest violin, it's sad music. And so I feel like that duality within Momiji is very representative, because he seems really mature for his age. We see a lot of times where he has very sage wisdom in between his quirky little bunny moments. Mm-hmm. So he can be very wise beyond his years. But then we also see kind of the sadness behind him. And so I feel like him playing the violin just at night in a dark house was really representative of who they're establishing him to be as a character, even though a lot of times they also play him up to be that quirky German boy.
Yeah, I really like that you brought that up. At this point, when I was reading the manga, it was definitely my theory that Momiji was an incredibly deep character that was very emotionally intelligent. As you see time and time again, he has a deeper understanding of who Toru is as a person, and he can understand her selflessness. He can understand what's going on with her in ways that Kyo and Yuki just brush off as her being kind of silly or stupid at sometimes, like when she spent all of her money that she was supposed to save for her school trip on chocolates for Valentine's Day. So, yeah. And they're like, why'd she do that? She's so dumb. We should have realized it. We shouldn't have let her make us chocolate. And Momiji's like, no, let me tell you the story about a traveler, and it's going to have a very deep meaning and will totally change the way that you view Toru forever. And Momiji's like that, where he's joking around and being ridiculous and having a fake German accent on so he can be like his mom. But he also is incredibly mature and can just delve into deep things and be behind the scenes and keep it within himself, and you don't even know. So
Yeah.
I think Momiji is such an interesting character, and he is by far one of my favorite characters.
Such a violin. Such a violin. And the last little image that we saw was Akito sing back to back with the character from the intro. Further, Akito's obsessed with the Zodiac, of course. So that really solidified that character, whatever his name is the rooster, 100%, because the rooster's the only one unaccounted for in the Zodiac. And so that leads me to also say that no, I don't think that Akito is part of the Zodiac at all. I guess. So this might sound dumb, but don't say like one way or the other.
I won't.
But so my theory on Akito, right, is so in the Zodiac story, okay? So there's the 13 animals?
Yeah,
13.
if you're including cat, yes, 13.
Yeah. And so everyone in that story kind of represents their animal as it was in the story, right? And so, like, Yuki and Kyo hate each other. Haru was mad at Yuki for a while, and everything regarding that. And so, who invited them all to the estate? Well, God did, right? So, or to dinner that day. God did. And who's the only thing in that story that is unaccounted for? Well, it's God. And so Akito is the one who gets mad when Yuki doesn't come to dinner on New Year's? Chinese New Year's? Or, yeah.
New Year's.
New Year's, not Chinese. But, so, I think that Akito's God in this story, and it would make a lot of sense. If I'm wrong, well, no one tell me in the comments, actually. I was going to say everyone tell me in the comments. No one tell me in the comments, because I want to find out for myself. But I think Akito is 95% God. Because otherwise, it wouldn't make sense how he has literally everyone on a string and is saying, you come see me, and making them, and they all feel compelled to do so. Like, Shigure goes, apparently Rooster's chilling with him now. So, I think Akito I feel firmly about this theory. It's the most firm theory I have, that Akito represents God in that story.
It's a good theory.
You're like, I'm giving you nothing.
You're getting nothing from me. I'm not spoiling.
Yeah, I feel very strongly about that. But I think that's all that there was in that episode. We talked about it. Yes.
Yeah. Just to round out, because I'm gonna keep bringing up the theme of the episode.
Yes.
Yuki
You keep us
finishes
on
by
track.
saying.
Yes.
Yuki finishes by saying, "Who knew a trivial remark could have the power to hurt and heal?" Which I love. That he concludes the theme of the episode by just rounding us out with that little statement. Oh,
Yeah.
I love.
No,
And
that is really good.
because we've already watched these first couple episodes, we obviously don't have to talk about our theorizing of what will happen in the next one because we've already watched it.
Yes.
But in future episodes, starting I think with episode 6, hopefully, we'll start talking about what we think the next
episode
might be about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the next one is called Eat Somen with Your Friends. We already know what happens. You probably already know what happens. But
we're going to talk about
next time.
Anyways. But
I think that manga readers will get a lot of insight from your theories, though. And you are very good at theorizing.
Oh, thank you. That actually makes me feel good. I don't feel like I'm that good, but good. I hope so. And for is there anything else before I start moving towards the end bit? Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about in particular? I didn't really see anything personally in the outro that really stood out to me personally, but I don't know if there's anything you wanted to talk about.
I didn't see anything in particular that...
It's very pretty.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Like, I enjoyed watching it, and I definitely have that song saved on Spotify.
No, yeah, I
listen to it all the time. It's really good.
But it looks like them going to the house for dinner. I don't know.
For the banquet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting that the cat is there.
Yes.
But I don't know if I have anything I'd like to share about that particularly.
They're all going to converge on the estate. They're going to raid it. With that being said, though, I think that'll probably do it for this episode. It was a little bit longer than we're going to be planning on making them from here on out, but that's because we really wanted to talk about the intro today, because we thought that there was so much juicy stuff with that.
Oh, yeah.
So, thank you all for watching so much, especially if you've made it this far into the episode. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, a fantastic rest of your week, and we will see you in the next episode.
See ya.
Have a great one. Later.